All right, welcome guys. We are going to do our first stuff with our interactive notebook. We are going to start by going to page 2 and looking at form. We'll also talk about space today, but we're going to start with form. So the definition right here, forms can be two-dimensional or three-dimensional objects that have length, width, and height. So a three-dimensional form is going to be any kind of physical object you can actually touch. Two-dimensional artwork would be a drawing of a three-dimensional artwork or a photograph of a three-dimensional object. We have 3 different examples of form right here. They're all drawings because I can't show you a real thing in a screenshot. But we have 3 definitions over here. So you can make a form by just adding shading to it. You can make a form by using the perspective drawing technique. These are all in one-point perspective. They're these lines that connect back to a vanishing point that's kind of cut off in this picture. And you can also use both of those techniques together to really create a sense of form and space in your picture. And that's pretty much it. When you do shading, you need to pick a light source and you need to pay attention to how the shadows would be cast on the object as well as cast around the object. Like this one down here, you can see this box up here actually casts a square looking shadow onto the bottom objects, but it wraps around that corner in a way that changes what that square looks like. So it kind of bends that square in your view. Even the shadows go back in space towards that vanishing point. So that's pretty much it for form. That was a nice little quick one. We're going to hop over here to space. Space is literally everything. Anything in your picture or in your sculpture that you're doing, everything inside the objects, around the objects, above, below, within, everywhere of your objects is space. Because space is everywhere, that's a lot of stuff. It's too much to talk about. You can't just say, it's space. That's not descriptive enough. So we have 2 different ways of talking about it. We have positive versus negative, and we have foreground versus middle ground versus background. So we're going to start at the top here with positive versus negative. We want to look at the area that is covered in is the ground that we are talking about. So the black area is going to be the ground that we're talking about. So this one over here, when the subject is colored in black, that's going to be positive space. Now, it doesn't have to be just black. It's literally like the subject area is what is the positive space. So if this was a drawing of ducks, the ducks themselves would be the positive space. If this was a drawing of a bowl of fruit, the bowl of fruit, whatever was part of that would be the positive space. Everything around your object, that's the negative space. Whatever is outside the subject or the figure of your work. This works really well when you don't have a lot of depth. When you have a pretty flat image, you can use positive and negative. Once we get down here, it's a lot harder. Like, what is the subject? Is it the lion? Is it the lion and the grass around it? Is it the lion and the tree? Is it the lion, the tree, and the mountains? Like, how do you can't put that into a positive and negative. So here we talk about how close or far away it is from you, and that's how we break up the space. The space that is closest to you is the foreground. That's going to be this bit. Oh, come here. That's going to be this bit right here. Why aren't you doing this? Okay, I fixed it. It never happened. You didn't see that. Anyways, this stuff in the front where you can see a lot of these details in the path and the individual blades of grass and the lion here, that's going to be your foreground. It's right before you. It's right in front of you. It's the closest part. The next we're going to look at is the middle ground. Now this is the stuff that's not all the way in the back, but it's not all the way in the front. We're going to put it about here. So this edge of the path where I can no longer really see the details as much, where you get you lose some of this details, but it's not all the way back here where I've lost some of the color, where it's really, really hard to see. I can still see a lot of the color being bright and bold, but it's not quite as clear and crisp as the stuff closest to me. Which leaves our background to be this area back here that has atmospheric perspective going on. That's when the color gets dulled or faded as it goes away because your eye can't see it as well. So those are our notes for form and space.